Hello and welcome to another session. So we're going to talk about an important concept called LLM, stateless. Okay. So LLMs are actually stateless. So what that means? So LLMs do not have any inbuilt memory to store historical data. Okay. So for example, if I basically tell you, if I have to give you an example, so let's say you are talking to an LLM, you created a chatbot, you're talking to an LLM. So you basically send one message, you basically ask, hey, what is Python? Okay, so now what LLM will basically have this information, so it will give you a response about what Python is. Okay, now the second question, if you ask who created Python, sorry, who created it? So if you ask who created it, now this LLM will not have this information, right? So this LLM will basically ask, what does it mean? Right here, what are you referring to? Okay, so that is because by default LLMs are basically stateless. That means they do not store the previous message. So it does not know that you have asked this question like about Python, and then the second question is actually referring to the Python it. So, but what LLM will only see, LLM will only see this message. So this is a new message, you'll only see this message. So it will see like who created it. It's like, okay, what is it? Right? What are you referring to? So it might ask for a confirmation, or it might just say, I do not know. Okay. Now you might have a question like, okay, but I'm using ChatGPT and I ask this question, and every time I have a follow-up question, it basically remembers everything, right? So how is it working? So basically, LLMs do not remember things. So what happens is, so basically internally, what happens is, let's say you have a message. What is Python, right? So now what will happen is this message will go to LLM. So this is message one, right? So this message will go to LLM. So now LLM will have this. So what is Python? It will give you the response. Now you have another message, let's say message two, who created it. Now what happens is this LLM will basically, the next time when you send this question, right, along with this question, the historically whatever is in this entire conversation actually goes. So now what LLM will actually, when you send this who created it, this is not the only test that goes. What is Python, who created? Both message one and message two gets sent to the LLM. So every time that you send a message, the current message plus the historical message, all this message will be sent to the LLM. So now LLM will basically have all this context like, oh, what is Python, who created it, and the current question. So that way it basically has all the context. So it is not like it remembers things. Basically you are sending all that information again and again. So this is taken care internally. Okay, so we're not doing anything, but this is how it basically goes. So every time that you go, if you send one message, along with that message the historical messages are also sent. Okay, now the question is, okay, I am only sending one message, so will I be charged just for that one message or all the other messages? So the answer is, since you are sending only one message, but however, what LLM receives is, LLM receives this current information along with all the previous information. So your input, this all will be your input tokens. So because it is been sending to LLM, so all this current message plus historical message, all this would be your input tokens, and then you will be charged for this input tokens. Okay, so that's where your long conversations, right, if you have very long conversations, you will quickly end up using your AI credits, because every time that you have that conversations, your current topic, whatever current prompt you're sending, along with that all the previous prompts will also be sent. That's where you will end up having a lot of input tokens consumed. Okay, so that is how this works actually. That is how LLMs are able to kind of understand the context or remember the context. You are basically sending everything from scratch. Okay, so this is the basic concept. So if you have a chat bot, and if your LLM is stateless, your chatbot will not remember your previous messages. But if you are sending those previous messages to the LLM, that's where you will see that LLM is actually remembering everything that you are sending. Okay, so another thing is, like, as your input token increases, right, sometimes it might breach the context limit. So context limit is basically like every LLM has a limit that is how many tokens it can process at a time. So that is a context limit. So some of them may have 128,000 tokens. So if you are having a very long conversation and you have previously hundreds and thousands of messages, depending upon the size of the messages, at one point it might breach this to 128,000, and that is where your system might hang, your chat might hang. So you can try this actually if you are using chat GPT, right? You can basically put a lot of conversation, high conversations, and then at some point it will actually break, saying that out of memory, or it will just hang. So that is because every time that you are sending one message, it is actually sending all those previous messages. Okay, so not only your input tokens will increase, your performance will be degraded. So this is one important thing, right? Where how much you want to store, all this you need to take care before designing your chat. All right. So this is a very basic important concept that you need to understand. I hope you are able to understand this, and I'll see you guys in my next class.